So, Rebel Moon. So, personally, I think this movie is exactly what it was pitched to be when Zack Snyder pitched it to Netflix. I think it's just Star Wars light. I think they do a lot of predictable beats. I think that's the best way I can title this video. Rebel Moon is just predictable. Like a lot of the things in this movie, a lot of the story arcs that the characters go on is just predictable. I remember it was a scavenger type of character. They're basically the insert Han Solo type of character. Like a lot of his, I pretty much knew what his character was going to be. Like he said himself, he was an opportunist. So I pretty much knew he was going to betray the main cast eventually. Speaking of the main cast, let's discuss the main character. Now, personally, as you know, when it comes to female main characters, does anyone else think that Gina Carano would have just been better for this role? Like, am I tripping? Is that like a hot take or anything? Because, like, there's something about this character I just can't get past, and it's the physicality. Like, I look at every main character in this movie that I don't even remember their names. I just remember one as interesting Indian guy who rides a giant bird. Big Buff Black Man #1 and Big Buff Black Man #2, one of which dies. And a lot of this movie, it's just whatever. Like the movie is just predictable on every sense of the imagination. You know, I will say the main villain or the main antagonist of the movie was very compelling. Obviously, he does what he always does best. He just shines in this role. He shines in every villain role he's given. Like he's made to play these vicious, cold-blooded, cold calculating villains. Like, and honestly, bro, he steals the freaking movie for me. I'm not gonna hold you. Like, his performance is literally the most memorable, and even the movie knows that because they couldn't let him go. Like, they couldn't let him go. They had to bring him back. They just couldn't let him just like die out. They just couldn't. And I get it. I really do get it. Like when you have like someone that sells the freaking performances, it's kind of hard to let these characters go. And I'm pretty sure he's one of the most expensive actors in this role, given his work on like, you know, Deadpool and a few other projects that I'm privy to. It's just interesting that like they just couldn't let him go. But the main character, again, she just doesn't match the physicality for the role and for the characters. Like I can only suspend my disbelief for a sci-fi movie for so long. Like for the most part, when it comes to these sci-fi movies, I can just put my freaking, you know, brain to the side. But for the most part, these people are still more or less humans. They're still biological, carbon-based life forms who still need nutrients and things of that nature. And honestly, the main character looks nutrient deprived. Like, bro, I swear, if a gust of wind blows over, she gonna fly. Like every time the wind blows in her hair, I'm thinking she's just gonna fly off. Like honestly, that cloak doesn't do her any favors either that she wears for the majority of the movie. It's just like, and then she plays the character so stiff and straight. Like, this is my problem when it comes to having female main characters in action roles, right? They just make them play caricatured versions of men. Like, and the criticism that I would have for the male actors, I have for the female actors, because like at the end of the day, she barely emotes. And again, that's my biggest problem, right? Like when it comes to selling the emotional scenes, sure, I guess they hit, but not really. Like for the most part, it's all just by the books, by the numbers, cookie cutter Star Wars propaganda. Like that's pretty much what this movie is. It just feels like Star Wars just a bit more cynical. You know what I mean? Like a lot more cynical actually. Like it's this character, insert Asian stereotype. You know, she's the one of the most powerful swordswomen in the entire galaxy, pretty much. Assassinated so many of our antagonist troops and generals and blah blah blah. It's whatever, bro. It's literally just whatever to me. Like a lot of the characters are just like, for the most part, I ain't gonna lie, they're stereotypes. And like I'm not really above stereotypes. I think they're fine if they're placed well. But for the most part, they all just play to what you expect them to play to. You know, you have the soldier, you have the general, and all of them are just, again, predictable. It's not anything new, you know? They don't try anything different. It's all just trying to be the next Star Wars. And of course, it's not even like the finale. Of course not. It's a freaking first part, meaning there'll be like 2 more parts probably, give or take. And if they really want to milk it, Netflix, I mean, they could make like a mini series on like the side characters that we don't get much for. But from the trailer that I've seen from part 2, because yeah, Netflix is really putting a lot of faith in this one, huh? It's like we're going to get more backstory on the side characters more, which will be interesting to see at least. And also the male character that our protagonist, you know, let's call him the love interest, even though There's barely any romance in this movie at all because for some reason modern movies are just allergic to love, especially when it comes to men and women. It's so weird, bro. It's so weird. Like, he has feelings for her, but like she has given no sign of reciprocation at all. Like, for the most part, they're just buddies. And it's weird, bro. It's weird that like this movie doesn't even try to play to the strengths. It's like, oh my God, this how strong independent girl boss in love with a man? What? Like, bro, she saves his ass so many times in this movie, bro. I should have just put a counter on there. But for the most part, this movie is just blindless sci-fi fun. For the most part, with slightly enjoyable characters who aren't even the main character. But that's just my take on this movie. Let me know your thoughts. I know a lot of people are going to be divided on this movie. I could tell from the usual suspects, but yeah, that's just my take on it. Yeah, the physicality is just hard to believe, especially when, again, all the male characters are just ripped to no end. You can literally one of the male characters don't even wear a shirt. And I can just imagine how the writers would be, or how the female audience would be like, oh my God, I can't believe these women are so objectified, and how they barely have to wear clothes. And like, the men are more shirtless in this movie than the women. If anything, the women wear more clothes than the male characters, and it's hilarious to me. It's actually funny. Like, but at the end of the day, yeah, this movie's just whatever to me. Like I said, the few bright spots are fine. I don't think the actress of the movie, the main character, sells it for me. I don't think she gives like a great performance. I think it's just basic, you know, just random pouty faces, you know, barely emoting. But that's what happens when you cast a woman in a male role. You know, you get her to act like a man and you don't play to the female strengths. You know, like, this isn't relatable to a lot of women. I know that for a fact. So it's like, I can only see this getting so far. But that's just my take on this. Let me know yours in the comments below. Peace.